evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, November 9th, 2021, 6:05, and this is the regular meeting of the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals. Mr. York, if you would take the roll, please.
Yes. Miss Janice? I don't think she's online either. Okay, so Mr. Klinder?
Here.
Mr. Norvell?
Here.
Mr. Zimmer?
Here.
Ms. Stransky?
Here.
And Mr. Hill?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item is approval of minutes from October 12th. Are there any changes to be made, comments, or a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Klinder?
Yes.
Mr. Norvell?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer?
Yes.
Ms. Stransky?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item is the first petition for this evening, B-122-21.
So you might recall this is a continued petition from our October meeting, and it's the petition for Mr. Clarence Davis. He's requesting a special exception use to allow for used car sales in a B2 zoning district located at 2001 East Michigan Boulevard. And I do believe he's here tonight. And do you want to come up front and just kind of tell us a little bit about it, Mr. Davis? Just tell us a little bit about the petition and go through it with us. I do believe that at our last meeting was continued because there was an issue with notice, and I think I'm correct in being told that noticing was done in a proper manner, and we're good to go.
That is correct. I had an opportunity to review the notice documentation. Mr. Davis did a very nice job. He re-notified everyone, and I appreciate that he really took the time to do this very well. So you're free to go ahead and hear this now.
Great, thank you. Please state your name and address for the record,
Clarence Davis.
and then speak into the mic.
Clarence Davis.
And your address?
Oh, why I'm here?
No, your address, your home address.
4024 North Fox Hollow Drive, LaPorte.
Okay, thank you.
Just kind of tell us a little bit about the project. You just go through it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So basically, I was at 117 West 11th Street for the last 4 years. And then South Shore came through with the train track expansion to do the 2 tracks, and they told us I had to find a new place to move. And because there's nothing else in town, I own the plaza. So I had a tenant move out so I could take the space to relocate my business because of lack of properties to go to in Michigan City.
So the property is in the outlined in the blue-green color here on the map, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm right next door to the old Walgreens. There's a Dollar General store there now. They took over the old Walgreens lease.
So you're going to turn that building into your used car showroom or
Yes.
office?
Yeah. One of the spaces, yes.
Okay. And then cars will be on display then in the parking lot in front?
Yes.
Why don't we run through the reports and then see if there's any other questions or comments and public comment.
Okay. Stay here or go to my seat? Oh, okay.
So in reviewing this, I'm just kind of want to go over this first before I give my staff reports. So in reviewing this, in hindsight, I know he applied for a special exception use, but I'm going to show you guys that this is an exhibit. I'm going to pass it around. You might notice that so it's one parcel, but it actually has a little bit of dual zoning on it. So in retrospect, it really needed to have a use variance along with it, which he did appropriately notify for. I think it was a mistake in the zoning code when it was originally done. We've had to deal with that through Plan Commission. I didn't catch this in the first review, but I did. Steve and I both have talked about it. So that's going to be reflected in the fact that I'm going to give you 2 staff reports and 2 recommendations. But I want to pass this around so you can see it. It really, I think it truly was a mistake during that time. Yeah, you can see the dual zoning on the back. And I want to kind of explain that first before I give you my reports. So the first report I'm going to give is actually about the special exception use. So that's originally what came through, okay? So this is this is a report on the petition B-122-21 special exception use for 2001 East Michigan Boulevard, and the petitioner is Clarence Davis. The Water Department, Chris Johnson, had no comments, no objections at this time. Sanitary Department, Steve Stanford, Operations Manager, had no objections. The Fire Marshal had no objections as well. The Planning Department, the petitioner is requesting to use the property for used car sales because the front of the property is zoned B2 and the rear is zoned R1D. Petitioner needs a special exception for the front and a use variance for the rear. So that's technically what they need, okay? So zoning ordinance requirements. A portion of the property is zoned B2 general commercial. Zoning ordinance 07.02 general commercial B2 automotive sales new and used requires a special exception use to be granted by the BZA. Proposed, the petitioner wishes to move their car lot to this location. Comments, the property owner is the petitioner and the proprietor of the car lot. Proposed findings for special exception use. The standards for special exception use have been set out below in italics, and they're found in the planning departments, or they're found in the zoning ordinance 24.05 and I'm going to read them now. Number 1, general welfare. The proposal will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and general welfare of the community. Proposed findings. This proposed use will not be injurious to the surrounding community, public health, safety, and general welfare. This use is similar to other uses in the immediate vicinity. Number 2, surrounding property. The special exception use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. The establishment of the special exception use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of the surrounding property for uses permitted in the district. Proposed finding. Granting the special exception use will not harm or diminish the use of the surrounding and adjacent properties. There are other car lots in the general vicinity of this location. And I might add in there too that currently it's already paved, it's already being used for a parking lot, essentially. Hazard. Number 3, hazard. The special exception use shall not be hazardous or to adjacent properties or involve uses, activities, materials, or equipment which will be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of persons or property through the excessive production of traffic noise, smoke, odor, fumes, or glare. The proposed finding. There are no hazards associated with granting the special exception use. The property already has a 6-foot privacy fence between the commercial use and the adjacent residential use. The property was previously used as a commercial structure with an associated parking lot. And I might add that Mr. Davis's operation doesn't include fixing cars, repairing cars, anything like that. It's strictly sales of cars. Number 4, public facilities and services. The use will be served adequately by central public facilities and the services such as highways, streets, police and fire protection, drainage, structures, water and sewage facilities, refuse disposal, and schools. Adequate measures have or will be taken to provide ingress and egress so designed as to minimize traffic congestion in the public streets. Proposed finding. This parcel has all the necessary public facilities directly adjacent or already existing at this location. All other essential public facilities are adequate and for this location. This location has 2 access points, one from Michigan Boulevard and one from Faulkner Streets. And the petitioner is basically not proposing to change any of those. Number 5, development requirements. The development of the property will be consistent with the intent of the development requirements established by this ordinance or for similar uses. Development will be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained to be compatible with and not significantly alter the existing or intended character of the general vicinity based upon County Comprehensive Land Development Plan. Proposed findings. This development is consistent with the intent of the County Comprehensive Land Development Plan and the Michigan City 2040 Comprehensive Plan. Number 6, ordinance intent. Granting the special exception use will not be contrary to the general purposes served by this ordinance and will not permanently injure other property or uses in the same zoning district or vicinity. Proposed finding. Approval of this special exception use will not permanently alter the pattern of development found in the area. This building was originally used for commercial purposes with a parking lot area in the front and back of the building. An existing 6-foot privacy fence is already in place between the commercial and residential use. Number 7, County Land Development Plan. The proposed use will be consistent with the character of the zoning district in which it is located and the recommendation of the County Land Development Plan. Proposed finding. The requested special exception use will be consistent with the character and intent of the underlying zoning district and County Land Development Plan. Which I kind of think we already talked a little bit about that before in development requirements. Use regulation. Where there are use-specific regulations contained in Article 14, the special exception use shall comply with all the regulations applicable to the use. If you go to Chapter 14, typically we've had some in the past where there'll be other requirements. There are no other requirements that are found in that chapter for this use. Recommendation. The department would recommend approval of the proposed special exception use B-122-21, subject to the following condition. Number 1, the petitioner must continue to maintain the existing 6-foot privacy fence located at the rear of the property, which provides a buffer between the commercial and residential use. Now I'm going to read the other one for the use variance, which is mainly the R1D to the rear of the property. That's really what it's about. Unfortunately, it's there, and we need to deal with it. So this is a report on the petition for B-122-221 use variance, 2001 East Michigan Boulevard, and the petitioner is Mr. Clarence Davis. Water department has no objections. The sanitary department had no objections. Fire department had no objections. The planning department, the petitioner is requesting to use the property for used car sales because the front of the property is zoned B2 and the rear is zoned R1D. Petitioner needs a special exception for the front and a use variance for the rear. Zoning ordinance requirements. A portion of the property is zoned R1D single family. So zoning ordinance requirements, what's required in zoning ordinance 04-02 use table, automobile sales and used are not permitted within the R1D zoning district. Requested. Petitioner is requesting a use variance to allow for a used car lot at this location. Comments. This is an unusual situation that the parcel in question has dual zoning of B2 and R1D. And I think I would add that the R1D is not being used as a residential use at this time. It's being used, it's part of the parking lot, essentially, and part of the building. So it's being used commercially. And it has been. Proposed findings. The standards for use variance are found in section 28.11, subsection A of the Joint Zoning Code, and are set out below in italics with the department's proposed findings. Number 1. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. This is true because it will not be injurious to the health, safety, and general welfare of the community because it will be built per all city standards. There really is no additional building being proposed at this time. It's just going to stay as a parking lot. Number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in any substantially adverse manner. The use and property is still a commercial use, and the value of the adjacent property will not be adversely affected. The parking will be similar, will be used in a similar manner. The parking lot will be used in a similar manner. Cars will be parked on the asphalt surface. Number 3, the need for a variance does arise from some condition peculiar to the property involved. The peculiar situation is that the property is dual zoned as R1D and B2. It's been used as commercial purposes for many years. I'm not quite sure how long this building has been there, but it's been that way for probably predates our zoning code. Number 4, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought. A strict application of the zoning code would be to deny all use of the owner's property due to the fact that the property is dual zoned. A used car lot is permitted by special exception in B2 zoning, but not allowed in R1D. Number 5, the approval does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive land development plan. The comprehensive plan calls for continued commercial use along East Michigan Boulevard, which is what's being proposed here. It's a commercial use. Recommendation: the department recommends approval of B-122-21 with the following condition. 1, the petitioner must continue to maintain the 6-foot privacy fence located in the rear of the property, which provides a buffer between the commercial and residential use. I'll entertain any questions because that was a kind of a complicated petition.
Thanks, Skylar.
Yeah, we're now gonna make the parking lot B2?
We're not changing the zoning. That's the plan commission would have to do zoning changes. And what we're granting is a use variance for that. I believe it's the correct way to handle it. After consulting with Steve, it is the correct way for us to handle it. And I would say that if it had a house on it and was being requested, I'd feel a lot different with my staff report and my recommendation to you. But it's been used as commercial property for numerous years. For a long time. And I think maybe it was just an oversight. I might recommend in the future, Mr. Davis, rezone it to be the same, but we're essentially granting him that use variance, so it's not impeding upon his use of it right now.
So is he the one that has to initiate that change?
He can. Yeah.
Can we just initiate it ourselves just to clean it up?
We could, but typically we do more blanket zoning rather than rezoning one property. He would need to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions, comments from board members? Mr. Hale, do you want to give your report?
Yes, sir. My report for petition number B-122-21. The petitioner and the owner is Clarence Davis. The request is special exception use, and as Mr. York explained, the use variance for the property at 2001 East Michigan Boulevard. I would note, as I stated earlier, that I did have an opportunity to review the new notice documentation. I had previously reviewed the old notice documentation, and Mr. Davis has properly provided us with this new documentation, and you're free to consider this matter. Next, I would note that the record includes the materials submitted by the petitioner. The petition was for a special exception use, and he filed both proposed special exception use, preliminary finding and order, And he filed an amended proposed special exception use preliminary finding in order that took care of an error he had on the first regarding the adjacent streets or the adjoining streets. They were wrong in the first one, and he corrected that in what he submitted to our planning department. There's also a beacon overhead map of the property, an acknowledgement of public hearing notice requirements, notice of public hearing related now to all three meetings, September, October, and November, and affidavit of service, again, for all three meetings, September, October, and now November. The last one are those that he submitted, and I had an opportunity to look at today. Also in the record is the presentation of Mr. Davis, the planning department report, this report, and I would just conclude, I think Mr. York did a very good job of indicating what is being requested. The petitioner is asking essentially that he move his used car sales enterprise from its current location because he's being relocated due to the South Shore expansion. And he placed it at this property at 2001 East Michigan Boulevard, which is entirely a commercial site. And so under our zoning ordinance, a used automobile sales business is permitted as a special exception use in the B2 zoning district. And if you approve the use variance, it's permitted in the RD1 with your approval. I would note that there are no special requirements for a used automobile sales, and Mr. York alluded to that. So there is nothing holding you back from determining how you want to handle this. You may approve the request. If you make findings consistent with the requirements, you approve the request with consistent findings, but subject to certain conditions. As always, those conditions must be made part of your motion. Mr. York included a condition in his report and his findings. You can deny the request or you can continue the hearing until a future meeting if you wish to seek additional information.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Any questions from the board? Any public comment related to this petition? Public comment? Not hearing any. Public comment is closed. So we're open for a motion on this petition.
I would like to interrupt at this
Yes.
point, and I think that an appropriate motion, given Mr. York's report, would be to grant the special exception use and use variance.
Two separate motions.
You could put it in one. He's really asked for it in one. I think Mr. York has explained that.
Great. So a motion that would include both parts of this petition, including the condition.
I move that we accept the finding of facts, the attorney's report along with the planning department's report. The condition has been met. The fence is currently in place, and I guess Mr. Davis plans on keeping it there. With all that, I recommend that we approve petition B122-21.
I would
Include
just
both
ask-
petitions.
If that would include both approval of the special exception use and the use variance, and subject to the condition that he maintain the fence.
Both petitions.
There's a motion. Is there?
Second.
Mr. Klender,
Yes.
Mr. Norvell,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
motion approved.
Enjoy your life, man.
Congratulations, Mr. Davis, and good luck.
Want to introduce it?
Petition B-123-21, Richard Gill is requesting a development standard variance to allow for construction of a 30 by 40 foot storage barn located at 6228 Friar Road. And Mr. Gill will
Just come up and tell us a little bit about the project and just go over what you're wanting to do.
Okay,
State your name and address for the record, and just kind of go through the project.
okay. Well, my name is Richard Gill, live at 6228 Friar Road. I wanted to build a barn because property across the road that I had my storage unit on it, my storage barn, and I sold it. So I have no place to put my special toys. So anyway, and it's roughly 305 feet across from property line to property line.
How much acreage do you own there? How big
Almost
is-
5 acres.
That's what.
Does that include that, what was it, 57, 58 Hudson that you had out there?
No. That's that's one of my toys, but that's a 59 Ambassador. Yeah.
So that's it. Any other, anything else to say about it?
I might just add in a few things. We spoke, and I'll let Aaron get to the staff report, but really the issue arises from he already has a garage there.
Yeah.
It's associated with the house. And our code, a strict application of our code says that you can only have one detached structure larger than 144 square feet, which we'll get to that in a minute. So that's really where this comes from, the need for this variance. But the reason I asked him how much property he owns, because he owns 5 acres of property there. It's about 181,000 square feet of property. It's sort of a unique situation in that that he has plenty of room, that it's not really intrusive to anyone else, because he has so much property. So that's kind of why we're here today. It's something we've been debating about changing. Maybe, if there's something where you own a larger lot of land, you can have more buildings essentially. Create. He's not covering up he's not encroaching on his lot coverage by any means with this building. It's that type of situation. So I'll let Aaron kind of give a staff report and he'll go into that.
No, go ahead, Aaron. Let's hear the reports and then we'll see if there's any more questions.
Aaron Borngraber, Assistant City Planner. So this is the report on the petition for B-123-21-6228 Friar Road. Petitioner is Richard Gill. The Water Department and Sanitation Department were not required. The Fire Department, Fire Marshal does not have any objections to this. The Planning Department. The petitioner is requesting a development standard variance to allow for construction of additional accessory structure on the property, indicated as a storage barn of approximately 30 feet by 40 feet. Zoning ordinance requirements. The subject property is zone R1B, single family residential district. The required zoning ordinance, section 16.02B, number of buildings, there shall be no more than one detached accessory building per lot, including adjacent lots or lots across the street. One gazebo and one shed less than 144 square feet may be permitted in addition to the accessory building. The request is for construction of a storage barn of approximately 30 feet by 40 feet. And the comment for the petitioner is proposing a storage barn of approximately 30 feet by 40 feet to be built by a professional contractor. The standards for a development standard variance are found in the zoning code in section 28.11B and are set out in the italics below with the department's proposed findings. Standard 1. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community because of the following proposed findings. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Petitioner is requesting an additional accessory structure of a storage barn, approximately 30 feet by 40 feet, to be located behind the existing principal and accessory structures. The proposed accessory structure, as indicated in the petition, shall have a minimum setback of 200 feet from the front property line and a minimum side setback of 100 feet from the western and eastern side lot lines. The total size of the property is approximately 181,384 square feet. Standard 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Proposed finding. The use and the value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The proposed storage barn will not impact the value of the property and will add additional square footage, resulting in an opportunity for increased value to the property. The proposed structure is a minimum of 200 feet from the front property line and a minimum of 100 feet from the western and eastern side lot lines. The total size of the lot is approximately 384 square feet. The proposed structure will not impact the light, view, air, or sight line from the adjacent property owners. Standard 3. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Practical difficulties shall result from exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property that do not generally apply to other properties in the same zoning district. The variance shall be necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property rights similar to that possessed by other property owners in the same zoning district. Proposed finding. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property, allowing an additional accessory structure on the lot that is approximately 181,384 square feet, resulting in additional space for the property owner. Staff's recommendation for the proposed finding is the department recommends approval of the requested development standard variance for construction of an additional accessory structure on the property proposed to be a storage barn of approximately 30 feet by 40 feet, docket number B-123-21, subject to the following conditions. All remaining provisions of section 16.02 residential accessory buildings shall be enforced. In the second condition, the structure shall have a minimum setback of 200 feet from the front property line and a minimum setback of 100 feet from the western and eastern side lot lines. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you, Aaron. Mr. Hale?
My report for petition B-123-21, petitioner Richard Gill, owner, requesting a standard variance for the property located at East Briar Road. I would note initially that I had an opportunity to review the notice documentation supplied by Mr. Gill. I found it to be appropriate and meets our requirements, and you're free to consider this matter. Next, I would note that the record in this matter includes the materials submitted by the petitioner. They include the petition for development standards variance, the petitioner's proposed development standards variance preliminary finding and order, an acknowledgement of public hearing notice requirements, a map depicting the approximate location of the requested barn, and the notice documentation which I mentioned. The record also includes the planning department report, this report, and Mr. Gill's presentation. I think you understand the request because our zoning ordinance requires or prohibits rather a second freestanding building. Mr. Gill is required to ask for this development standards variance so that he can put up his proposed barn. Mr. You're familiar with the standards to be considered for approval or rejection of a development standards variance. And this evening you may grant this request, may partially grant the request or grant it with limitations if these limitations are included in the motion. You may grant the request but subject to certain conditions, but again, they must be included in the motion. Or you may deny the request, or you could table the request until a future meeting. Finally, I would just add that I did put out in my report, which you all received a copy of, the 3 standards that Mr. Borngraber provided you with in his report.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Any questions from board members? Any public comment related to this petition? Not hearing any. Public comment is closed. Is there a motion?
Yes,
Go ahead.
excuse me, yes, I would like to indicate that we should grant the request for a standard variance for Richard Gill petition B-123-21 with the recommendations recommended by the planning department included.
Say, recommendation to reflect the conditions that were in that report.
Yes, the conditions are, yes, sir.
I'll second that.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Mr. Norvell,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer,
Yes.
and Ms. Stransky.
Yes.
Motion approved. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Gill.
Yeah, I hope. If I don't get more.
Yes,
Thank you.
Next item this evening is old business, which is approval of findings and orders.
If I may, Mr. Zimmer.
Yes.
Members of the board, you will have previously provided to you written forms of the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals decision and findings of fact for 2 petitions that we heard at our October 12th, 2021 meeting. I'm now going to go through the formal approval of the decision and findings of fact. The first is petition number B-120-21. The petitioners and owners were Nick and Amy Georgitsis. Request for a development standards variance for property at 410 Dunham Beach Drive, Michigan City. Our public hearing was on October 12th, 2021. And you will recall that the petitioners requested a development standards variance to allow construction of a 5-foot-high fence with greater than 80% visibility on a double frontage lot. You approved the findings that were submitted by your planning department. And on October 12th, based on the petition, the presentation of the petitioners, the documents, testimony, remonstrances, and other matters brought forth in the public hearing, and all matters otherwise in the record, this board approved the granting of petition B-120-21. An appropriate motion will be to approve the decision and findings of fact for this petition as presented to you in written form.
Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we accept the finding of facts and approve petition B-120-21.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sorry. Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Mr. Norvell,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next
The
up
second-
is.
The second decision of this board was for petition number B-121-21. The petitioner was BCP Development LP, Robert A. Bahar, MD, MBA. The owner was GFS Merger One LLC. The request was for a special exception use for property located at 5400 Franklin Street. Again, we held our public hearing on October 12th, 2021, and we made a decision based on the petitioner's request for special exception use for minor auto repair services, basically including the sale and installation of wheels and tires for that location at 5400 Franklin Street. This board made findings as presented by your building or your planning department, and you considered the requirements of Article 14.05, which provide that in 14.05 subsection A, 1, all repair work shall be conducted completely within an enclosed building. 2, stores of wrecked, partially dismantled, or other derelict vehicles is prohibited unless such storage is required under police or court order. Vehicles awaiting repair shall not be stored outdoors for more than 7 days and shall be screened with an 8-foot-high screen wall in accordance with Section 17.03 of our zoning ordinance. And 3, there shall be no outdoor storage or display of vehicle components and parts, supplies or equipment or other merchandise, except within an area defined on the site plan which extends no more than 10 feet beyond the building. In addition, the board approved the requested special exception use, but subject to the following conditions. First, there shall be no overhead or roll-up doors placed on the front facade of the building facing Franklin Street, US 421. Second, other than what is allowed in Section 14.05, which I just read, there shall be no other outdoor displays that take up, impede parking spaces on the site. Based upon that condition and the requirements of Section 14.05, this body granted the petition and approved it subject to those conditions on October 12, 2021. Again, an appropriate motion would be to approve the decision and findings of fact of this petition as presented to you in written form.
Thank you. Motion?
I make a motion that we approve the decisions and findings of fact of petition B-121-21 is supplied in this written form.
Second.
Just to clarify, as supplied in the written form, it includes both of those conditions that I read.
That's correct. Yes, thank you, sir.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Mr. Norvell,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Does anybody have any new business this evening to discuss?
I do. So some new business is that we have, I've hired a new assistant planner for the city of Michigan City. He's sitting right here to my right. His name is Mr. Aaron Borngraber. He's a very knowledgeable and capable individual, and I'm very pleased to have him come work for us. So the other thing is that he's going to take over the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I'll come. I might come to the next meeting, but I want him to start learning how to do this. So, be gentle, be easy on him. But there's going, he's going to be able to jump right in and take over. So, I think it'll be good. So, anyways. Yeah, I wish. I'm just going to hand off the ball to him, and he's going to take it and run with it. So say hello to him. Call him up if you need him. That's it, really. That's my only really big new business. So.
Welcome, Aaron.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
You'll be hearing from me.
Is there any public comment this evening about anything related to the Board of Zoning Appeals or petitions? Not hearing any. Public comment is closed. And I guess we are adjourned then until the next meeting, which is on December 14th at 6 o'clock in these chambers. Thank you.